Aspartame Eye Emergency, an extract from the film Sweet Misery, A Poisoned World, featuring Dr. Ralph S Walton, a psychiatrist. The Nutrasweet company had made the claim years ago that they would help and support any legitimate researcher, that they would supply aspartame and be helpful in any research. I have published my anecdotal studies, and I'd written a chapter in Richard Wertman's book, so I think that the industry knew of my stance already. But then in the mid-90s, I wrote to the company, stating that we wanted to do a double-blind study, because my earlier work had indeed been anecdotal. And I pointed out that they had made the claim that they would supply aspartame to any legitimate researcher. At that point, I was a professor at the Northeastern Ohio College of Medicine. I think I qualify as a legitimate researcher. I sent the protocol for the study to the company, and they responded that this was unnecessary research and would not supply us with aspartame. I offered to buy the aspartame, they refused. They put up roadblocks. They made it very difficult for us to purchase aspartame. We had to go around them. We finally did get USB-grade aspartame from a private firm. But the point is that the Nutrasweet company made it very difficult. Didn't follow through on their promise to supply aspartame to any legitimate researcher. They said this was unnecessary, shouldn't be done, needn't be done. They tried to block it. When we did our double-blind study here, at this hospital, we had a really tragic situation which occurred, which I attributed directly to the aspartame. We needed volunteers. We looked at both patients, that is, people who had a history of mood disorder, and we needed some controls, and people without the history of mood disorder. One of the people that I used in this study was the administrator for our psychiatric unit, who was a PhD psychologist. Several days into this study, he had an emergency, an ophthalmologic emergency. That is, he had sudden bleeding in his eye and a detachment of his retina. He had to be rushed to Cleveland for emergency surgery. His eye could not be saved. He lost the vision in one eye. At the same time, we had another participant in the study, a nurse who also had an episode of intraocular bleeding, that is, bleeding within her eye. So, we had two people who during the course of this study had eye emergencies, and what I found was really quite frightening, and that was that. Yes, there were many studies in the literature which did attest to aspartame safety, but they were essentially all funded by the industry, either Searle, the Nutrasweet industry, or the diet soft drink industry. These are the individuals who sponsored, paid for the studies. There were independent studies, but virtually all of the independent studies, that is, studies that were not funded by the industry, virtually all of them did identify one type of problem or another with aspartame. So, how you design a study is going to have an impact on the results. And I think that many of the industry-sponsored studies were set up in such a way that the results could be predicted ahead of time and would be supportive of the safety of the product. Read the comic about the aspartame birth defect study I conducted with Dr. Woodrow Monte. You can read more testimonial comics and receive up-to-date news on the subject of artificial sweeteners at artificialsweetenerawareness.blogspot.com or visit Betty Martini's website for a wealth of information at mpwhi.com.